The following podcast is going to contain spoilers, along with me, just a regular guy, talking about all the things I love, such as comics, movies, television, music, and books. So yeah, proceed at your own risk. Welcome to another episode of Just Another Fanboy. I'm your host, Steven, and today I think it's time we revisited the Dragonlance Chronicles. Back on episode 15, I talked about, I started the discussion about my favorite fantasy series of all time, a trilogy of books that really got me into reading, and it was the Dragonlance Chronicles by Margaret Weis and Tracey Hickman. And on episode 15, I talked about the first book, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, and today I want to talk about book number 2, Dragons of Winter Night. This was published in 1985. I don't think I mentioned that back in episode number 15. The first book was published in 1984. This book, number 2, was published in 1985. Now, when we last left our heroes, they had managed to free the slaves from Pax Tharkus, and they killed a dragon high lord, Verminard, and we take up the story from there. We've actually shot forward a little bit into the future. We're now in Thorbarden, which is the mountain home of the dwarves, and the refugees from Pax Tharkus are living there, and they're presenting the dwarves with a gift, and it's the Hammer of Karis. This is the hammer used to forge the Dragonlance. Sturm's not all that happy about it. Apparently, sometime between book 1 and book 2, our heroes went out on a little quest, a short little adventure, and they recovered this hammer. Sturm thinks that the hammer should be given to the Knights of Salamnia in case they need to forge new Dragonlances, but it's an act of friendship. The dwarves are letting the humans live there in their mountain home, and to pay them back, they have given them this hammer. However, there's a big meeting. One of the head humans now is Elistan, who they freed from Pax Tharkus. He is now a cleric of Paladine, one of the 3 main gods. There's a lot of gods in the world of Krynn, but the 3 main ones are Paladine, who is who's basically, he's the good guy, Takesis, who is the bad guy, and I can't remember the neutral god. Anyway, they devised this plan, the humans devised this plan to send our companions, to send our heroes off to the south to a city called Tarsus the Beautiful. This is a city on the coast. It's a port city. No one has been there in hundreds of years, apparently. Tasselhoff, Burfoot, the Kender, he's got a map that shows how to get there. The only thing they know about this city is rumors and legends of the fabled white-winged ships of Tarsus. And they're hoping to go there and book passage to somewhere, some land that is untouched by the war. However, when they arrive through the winter, it's now winter time, there's snow on the ground, there's storms and all that, and it's a very gray and barren landscape, and it's cold and depressing. And to make matters worse, they get to Tarsus and they find out it's no longer a port city. No one has been to this city. No one among the dwarves or the humans, anybody who's there hanging out at Thorbarden, they have not been to this city since before the Great Cataclysm. Now, I don't know if I mentioned that in the first episode. I may have, because when they went to get the discs of Mishakal, they went to the ruined city of Zack-Saroth, which was destroyed during the Cataclysm. And it was this great event where the gods rained down just horror among the people because of a crime that one of their high priests committed against the gods. Anyway, thanks to the Cataclysm, Tarsus is no longer a port city, so there's no ships, there's no ocean. They're nowhere near water. So they're there at the city now at this point, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. They're in a tavern. The city is overrun by the dragon army. Well, as they're there chilling in this tavern, these guards come, and Tanis quickly, before they enter their little room, their room where their private room where they're at, he sends everybody away so that it's just him and Tass and Flint and Gilthanas to confront them. They're arrested and taken before the governor or the mayor of the city, something like that. While they're gone, the rest of the crew, Laurana, Raistlin, Caramon, Tika, they're up in the room waiting, and this is where we get to learn a bit of information about Raistlin and Caramon's half-sister, Kitiara, who used to have quite the relationship with Tanis. She was among the companions when they separated before the first book began, but she did not return as the rest of them did. So back to Tanis and Tass and Flint and Gilthanas, and I feel like Sturm's with them. Now I can't quite remember, but they're rescued by the Knights of Solamnia. And with them is an elf from Sylvanesti. Her name is Alana Starbreeze, and this is why I feel Sturm was with them, because immediately there's a connection between Sturm and this elf. So as they're in hiding, we discover that Tasselhoff has these magic glasses, and he's looking at this book that the knights have that no one has been able to read because it's in a funny language. But his glasses allow him to read any language, and through it he learns about these things called the dragon orbs, which apparently were created by wizards long, long ago to control dragons. Well, in the meantime, the dragon armies come and they attack and they destroy the town. The companions are then split up at this point. Tanis manages to hook up with Caramon and Raistlin, and Sturm is with Laurana and Alana Starbreeze. No. Sturm is with Laurana. Alana Starbreeze, she rescues Tanis and Caramon and Raistlin and Tika, and they set off for Sylvanesti. She was there at Tarsus looking for help because there's something wrong with Sylvanesti. The others, Laurana, Sturm, Gilthanas, Tasselhoff, Flint, they all go to Icewall. For some reason, I can't remember why. There's some rumors that they head off to Icewall, but it's there that they are able to get a hold of one of the original Dragonlances. And as they're on their way back to where they need to be, they're having an argument because they're not really sure where they need to be. Laurana wants to go to Southern Urgith because it's very close, and she knows that her family is there, and the Qualinesti, that's where they have left Qualinost, and they're hanging out in Southern Urgoth. So she wants to go there to try to get help from the elves. The knights, however, want to go to Sandcrest, which is where the knights hang their hats. Sturm is, of course, put in the middle of it, and before he can really pick a side, the ship is attacked by a white dragon, and it's destroyed, and then our heroes end up washed up on the shores of Southern Urgith. So they're rescued by the elves. Well, during dinner that night, the king, the leader, I can't remember his name, but Laurana's father is very excited about having her back, and she's saying that they can't stay long. They have to take the dragon orb to Sandcrest. And he's like, oh, no. The dragon orb is ours now, my dear. You've brought it to us. It's where it needs to be. And so she ends up with the knights. They steal the dragon orb because she knows it can't stay there. They steal the dragon orb and they sneak off with the help of a wilder elf. So there's 3 tribes of elves. There's the Sylvanesti, the Qualinesti, and the Kaganesti. And the Kaganesti are like the wild elves. And there was a civil war at one point. The Sylvanesti were like the first, and they split apart and became the Sylvanesti and the Qualinesti, and then the Kaganesti were kind of caught in the middle. Anyway, they're looked upon by the other 2 tribes of elves as basically barbarians and very low rank and almost animals. But she's kind of a servant to the Qualinesti, but she helps them sneak out, and she uses the help of an old friend from Haven, Theros Ironfeld. When last we left him, he was in a cage with our companions back in book 1, and he had his arm chopped off. Well, now he's alive, and his arm is now, he's got a new arm, and it's silver. He doesn't tell us how it happens. He just says, that's a long story, and I don't think we ever learn. I think they wrote a book about it at one point. So as they're escaping across Urgith, the elves are chasing them. They're half a day behind or something, and they realize that they're not going to be able to outrun the elves. Well, the knights want to turn and wait and fight the elves. Lorana doesn't want to because they are her kin, and Sturm ends up taking her side, which, pisses off the knights. Well, Sylvana has a plan for them to separate. She sends Sturm with the knights away with the dragon orb and the dragonlance, while the rest of them lead the elves away on a false trail. And she ends up taking them to a safe place, which is this giant, they go through all these, they cross the river of the dead, and they just this long journey until they find they're at the top of this mountain and this massive castle that's shaped like a giant dragon. And inside, Tasselhoff is exploring, and he finds Fizban, the doddering old wizard from book 1 who we thought died but is alive. And he comes back to the main room with Tasselhoff. He's like, "Oh, what are you all doing here?" And he suddenly, when he sees Sylvana and he sees what's going on, his doddering old man act just goes away, and suddenly he's very serious, and he's telling her, "You've done the wrong thing, Sylvara. You shouldn't have done this, and now you have to tell them the truth." And we find out that Sylvara is a silver dragon. So there's different colors of dragons. Up till this point, we've seen, we know that there are red ones and black ones and blue ones and green ones and white ones. But now we find out there's a silver dragon, and there's a story told at one point by Sylvara about Huma and the silver dragon, who came to him in the guise of a human, and they fell in love. He found out she was a dragon. He didn't care, but they were told by Paladine, "Look, if you guys want to go off and be married and be happy, you can, but I'm about to give you the secret to destroy the evil dragons and win the war, but I can't do that if you're together, so you have a choice to make." And they chose to remain separate so they could win the war. And now we find out that Sylvara is a silver dragon as well. I think she's related. She's either the sister or the daughter of the silver dragon that fell in love with Huma. Meanwhile, we go back to Tanis and Raistlin and Caramon and Tika, and they're traveling across the country by pretending that they are a traveling act called the Red Wizard and his Wonderful Illusions. He does magic. Tika dances. Caramon lifts things over his head. We go back to, then we go from there to Sturm. He's with the knights, and he's on trial because they say he betrayed them. We also go to the Council of Whitestone, which everyone has gathered to find out what they're going to do about the dragons. The dragon orb is there. They're arguing about who's going to use it. Tass shows up with Fizban. He steals the dragon orb in front of everybody, and he throws it onto a rock, and it shatters. And everybody is angry. They're getting ready to kill him. And Fizban steps in, and he's like, "Y'all just need to calm down." And he gets all stern with them, and he gets all serious. But before he can really give his speech, the big giant white boulder behind him, that is Whitestone, is suddenly split apart by something that appears to be a lightning bolt. But it's not a lightning bolt. It's a Dragonlance. And Theros is there to show that he can now forge the Dragonlance. He was shown by Sylvara how to do this. Now, in the meantime, Tanis and them, they are in this city, this town that is controlled by one of the dragon armies, led by the blue dragon High Lord, who rides a blue dragon and has a big, group of blue dragons. Did I say blue or did I say, now I can't remember. Yeah, it's a blue dragon. Good Lord, I'm going crazy. Anyway, at one point they need some information. So Tanis and Caramon go out into the town. They waylay a couple of dragon soldiers. They steal their armor. Then they move about to try to get information. They get separated, and this elf, I think it was an elf, somebody tries to kill Tanis because he thinks that Tanis is, an officer in the dragon army. And the guy almost succeeds, but then Tanis is rescued by the blue dragon High Lord, who is very surprised to see Tanis and calls him by name. And we find out that the blue dragon High Lord is none other than Kitiara. And that's why she didn't return, because she's always been a mercenary. She's always gone where the money is. And now she's fighting for the bad guys. Well, so Tanis stays with them for a bit. I skipped this whole part where Tanis and Alana and Raceland and they all go to Sylvanesti. The big problem that was happening in Sylvanesti is that the king, the leader of the Sylvanesti, who's Alana's father, he had a dragon orb and he tried to use it to save the Sylvanesti, but he is sucked into it. And there's a dragon there within the dragon orb named Cyan Bloodbane who kind of takes him over, and it turns Sylvanesti into a nightmare place. And when they go to try to save him, they're sucked into the nightmare. And at one point, Raceland he's in the nightmare and he's speaking to somebody that we can't see. And he says, okay, I'm going to need more out of you. We'll make another bargain. And he becomes more powerful and he leaves them all behind to get through this nightmare. And in the end, they win and they get the dragon orb. And so they have it. They have the dragon orb with them. Raceland's got it. And at one point, he's playing around with it when he's by himself, and he goes inside it, and there's somebody in there that's helping him out. So there's like this mysterious figure that we can't see that's giving him a lot of information and helping him out, some mystical figure. Well, the book ends at the High Clearest Tower. The Kittiara and her dragon armies show up there. This is like a gateway to the north or the south or something. They have to win this war. The dragon armies do to continue on. And so all the knights are there. Sturm has gone through his trial. He is found not guilty. He is initiated into the Knights of Solamnia, but at the lowest order. And so he's there to help defend the tower. His biggest rival, Derek Crownguard, who was one of the knights that was with him during their adventure, he's the one that accused him of being a traitor. He decides, you know what? We're not going to wait for an attack. I'm going to gather up all the knights who support me, and we're going to go right out, and we're going to face this army head on. Sturm and all his people are like, no, don't do it. That's stupid. You're committing suicide. He goes out anyway, and they all get killed. Well, in the end, they learn that there's a dragon orb there at the freaking High Clearest Tower, and they figure out Tasselhoff figures out how to use it. Because of his glasses, he can look into the dragon orb and it tells him what to do. And they use it to call all the dragons to the tower. The tower is built to kill dragons. And they are all called into the tower by this orb that's right at the very center. And these dragons are flying through these giant hallways. And they get to the center. And then these gates slam down on top of them, trapping them inside so that the knights can come out of hidden compartments in the walls and kill the dragons with dragon lances. But in order to set this all up, Sturm has to go out and kind of delay the army. And so he's out there basically on top of the wall fighting the army by himself. And the Dragon High Lord, Kittiara, she comes after him and they fight and he dies. And that's how the book ends, and it's very sad. So book 2, Dragons of Winter Night. I've got one more book left, and we'll talk about that in a month or so. Love these books so much. Love them so much. If you haven't read them, you really need to get out there and read them. I'm looking forward to reading this last one. And then, good Lord, there's even more after that. They do more Dragonlance books based on this that's just, oh my gosh, there's just so much out there. I don't know how I'm ever going to read it all. But I'm looking forward to the adventure. So until then, until next time, until I see you again, my name is Steven, and I'm just another fanboy. Be nice to each other. Just Another Fanboy is a presentation of the Stephen or Else podcast. Questions and comments can be directed to feedback@StephenOrElse.com. You can support the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/StephenROr and get instant access to the My Other podcast, a weekly show about whatever crawls its way into my tiny little mind just moments before I tap record. You can find me on the World Wide Web at StephenOrElse.com or find me on Twitter and Instagram by searching for @StephenOrElse. I also encourage you to subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star review, and share this episode with a friend. Just Another Fanboy is a proud member of the Comics Podcast Network. You can find that over at comicspodcasts.com. All links will be in the show notes.
Bye-bye, Daddy. Bye-bye, Daddy.
Good job.